a quiet Sunday morning in southeast Colorado Springs as Marie Bassett begins her daily prayers.
It was very comforting to her. She always had her Bible. Sundays were peaceful, nice way to start the day.
The particular prayer that she was reading talked about how we know what love is and how we should be willing to give up our lives for our own brothers and sisters.
She gets up to see what it is. She hears the squeal of tires as the car is leaving the area.
I would imagine she was just trying to get her head around whatever was happening.
Across town, Lt.Joe Kenda is enjoying the scenic ride to Colorado Springs Police Headquarters.
It was my time to just sit back and relax. Time to sort of ease into work.
But Kenda's easy morning is about to go up in smoke.
Go for Kenda.
Radio cracks that there is a shooting victim at St. Francis Hospital.
Be advised, the victim is in critical condition. He was brought there by a friend who is also being treated.
10-4, I'm en route. Kenda out.
I'm going to go straight there for two reasons. To find out what the condition of this person is, and what does this witness know about how this came to happen. As I pull into that ER parking area, there's a green vehicle, passenger car, sitting there with the door open.
Lieutenant.
How you doing?
Good.
So we got?
I don't know a whole lot more than you do right now. We just got here before you.
The officer tells me that the victim is Arthur Gibbs. He's 20 years old. He was brought into the hospital by a witness in that vehicle, the green car.
Who's that?
That's the nurse that admitted him.
Thank you. How you doing? I understand you were the admitting nurse. Can you tell me what happened? Start from the beginning.
Yeah, I was organizing files, and this man came bursting through the ER doors, screaming that his friend had been shot.
Help! Please help! I need some help. My friend's been shot. Come on!
You got a gunshot victim? Grab the gurney, let's go. His face was all bruised. He was covered in blood. We just got a gurney out here and got him in as fast as possible.
Come on, help me, please!
They immediately extricate the party from the car, get him into surgery.
He's bleeding profusely from a gunshot wound to the face and another gunshot wound to the back.
We don't know if it entered the brain cavity.
In the case of gunshot wound to the face, 90% of the people die and die before they reach a hospital for treatment. Arthur is alive, so it's perhaps he's among the 10%.
Can you tell me about the man that brought in Mr. Gibbs?
Yeah, his name was Isaac Watson.
The nurse explains that the witness is 33 years old, and they are checking his face to see if he has any further injuries.
Did you say where his friend got shot? Which neighborhood?
Yeah, several blocks away.
He told her that the shooting actually occurred several blocks from the hospital at the intersection of Cimarron and Institute.
And you mentioned that his face was bruised up.
Yeah.
Do you know if he'd been fighting with the victim?
He didn't really give a lot of details.
Hey, Ritz. What do you need, Lieutenant? Can you find out when we can talk to Isaac Watson? And make sure you test his hands for gunshot residue? Will do.
No one is ruled out as a suspect until the facts say so.
It's not unheard of that two individuals have an argument. These could be friends. It escalates to physical confrontation. Somebody gets wounded, shot, or killed. At which time the friend usually jumps in and tries to help.
Is that what happened here? Well, I don't know that. But it's certainly among the things that concern me.
Before questioning Isaac Watson, Kenda examines the car he used to drive Arthur to the hospital.
A mess.
There's a large quantity of blood across the front passenger seat.
Somebody had been bleeding profusely in his car. And the rest of the inside of the car was pretty dirty.
We also found this.
Is that a bullet hole?
That's what it looks like.
The officers point out a bullet hole in the seatbelt release mechanism, which would indicate that perhaps that's the bullet that hit him in the back. So Arthur was sitting here when he was shot, and the nearly vertical trajectory tells me something else. It's possible that Mr. Gibbs was speaking with the shooter through that open window. That's also a point for Mr. Watson's side. If he's the driver, why would he be standing over there on the other side of the car? So it is an indicator that there is someone else besides Mr. Watson as part of this.
Another indication is the results from Isaac Watson's GSR test.
Watson's test came back negative. See what it said.
His hands say he didn't fire a weapon, so Mr. Watson is looking less and less likely to be the person responsible for this.
As Kenda and the investigators process the car, they find another surprise.
Check this out.
There is a knife stuffed in the cushions in the front seat.
And that knife was bloody. So your thoughts right away are, did this shooting occur because there was a fight going on? Somebody got stabbed, and in retaliation, somebody got shot?
There's one last thing that catches Kenda's eye.
What's that? It's a jacket, maybe?
There was a white jacket in the back of his car.
Now we know Mr. Gibbs is wearing a dark colored jacket. We know Watson is wearing a light colored jacket covered in blood.
Yeah, I'll go bag that up. Sure.
Whose coat is that?
Lieutenant Kenda.
I was thinking about that jacket when I'm approached by Officer Webb, who tells me he heard that Arthur was the victim in this shooting, and I said he is.
Yeah, why, you know him?
Yes, I recently met him. I was called out to his mother's house on a domestic call.
Please don't leave. Don't touch me. Please, I'm sorry.
Officer Webb went on to explain that the mother had developed a relationship with a Gary Hilton, who was her semi-boyfriend, who was also verbally and physically abusive to her.
Arthur and his mom needed Gary Hilton financially. And to some extent, I'm sure his mom needed Gary Hilton emotionally.
He paid half the rent. But that came with a price. And that price was emotional and physical abuse.
She finally got fed up with it, and with the assistance of her son Arthur, they threw Gary Hilton out.
You don't tell me what to do.
Yes, I do. My mom wants you out. Hey! Get your hands off her! Stay away from us! Stay away from us!
The commotion led the neighbors to alert the cops.
Move, man! Hey, no! I said knock it off!
It got so heated that Webb called for assistance.
Get your hands off her! Stay away from us! Start me back up!
The incident gets Kenda's wheels spinning.
Even though police help break up a domestic dispute one day, that doesn't mean it's over. Feelings can fester and somebody can seek revenge for something like that.
Watch your back. You gotta watch your back.
Hey, let it go.
Now we have a victim whose family's involved in domestic that he got involved in also.
All right, notify the mother of Arthur's condition and find Gary Hilton. I want to talk to him as soon as possible.
Yes, sir.
Gary Hilton, did he put a bullet in Arthur's face? That at the moment is the $64 question. So here we are. We have Arthur Gibbs shot in the face fighting for his life, and we have Gary Hilton in a recent violent argument with our victim.
While officers track down Gary Hilton, Kenda and his team head to the street corner where the shooting allegedly occurred.
It's a very nice little area, Colorado Springs. A lot of middle-income homes.
This is not where Arthur lived. So the other question becomes, why is he at the intersection of Cimarron and Institute at 6 o'clock in the morning?
Did you find anything?
Didn't see anything.
All right, why don't you go knock off the doors?
So where do you suppose the car was parked? Because I'm not seeing anything.
I have no idea.
The intersection of Cimarron and Institute as the crime scene, that's a large area.
Scenes are as you find them. They're not always perfect. They don't always have identifiable evidence present.
This is Kenda. Why don't you go ahead and bring Watson down to me along with some more officers to help canvass. In the meantime, let's block off this whole intersection.
I want to get Mr. Watson down there physically so that he can be specific about what corner they were sitting on.
Officer Webb to Lieutenant Kenda.
Go for Kenda.
It's Officer Webb, and he reports that he has information as to the location of Gary Hilton, the estranged boyfriend of Arthur's mother.
Lieutenant, I don't know if this is going to be good news or bad news. Colorado Springs Police Department.
Webb tells me that when he went to this apartment, he found it to be vacant.
He was unable to make contact at the door, but a neighbor came out.
Hey, they're not there. They got evicted.
Arthur's mother and Arthur moved out of this residence.
His mother moved out and had gone to Tulsa, Oklahoma to visit her mother.
She further said that she also knows Gary Hilton, and he immediately moved to California, which was several days before the shooting.
I made a few phone calls and I was able to confirm that information, sir.
All right, thanks for letting me know.
So we've eliminated someone that looked promising as a suspect, but we still have other things that have to be resolved.
More than ever, Kenda and his team need to talk to Isaac Watson, who's been given clearance by the hospital to travel to the crime scene.
There had to be more behind what had occurred.
Mr. Watson?
And the police were very anxious to find out what had occurred.
So tell us what happened?
We were parked right here. We were just trying to figure out what we were going to do for the night.
He points out which corner and says that he and Arthur were sitting in his car.
So what we going to do?
He and Arthur were just talking.
What is this? You know that?
When this dark-colored vehicle approaches and comes to a screeching halt.
Hey, Lieutenant. Check this out.
We clearly see side pressure scuff marks from tires that confirm his story.
What happened next?
Something came at us.
Watson tells me that two Hispanic males get out of that car. One is wearing a black trench coat. He comes up on the passenger side of the car. The other guy's got a rifle.
Hey, give us your money. Give us your money. Right now. Come on.
They don't have anything to give them, and a fight ensues.
Use the money. Go on, give me your money. Give me your money right now.
As the yelling and screaming and demands are going back and forth, he hears two gunshots. He looks over at his friend. He sees blood pouring out of his face.
Both the Hispanic males ran back to their dark color car that was being driven by a third Hispanic male.
Oh my God!
And they sped away.
Isaac is really emotionally upset at this time when we talk to him.
Officer, you want to search this whole area for evidence of a shooting?
Yes, sir.
They search the area, and they found nothing. No casings, no projectiles, no ballistic evidence whatsoever.
Although Isaac Watson's story is plausible, Kenda hopes that he can at least explain the evidence found in his car.
Now, I know this is difficult, but what can you tell me about the knife in Arthur's seat and the extra coat in the back?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know anything about that.
He suddenly becomes evasive.
When you're vague and when you don't come forth with all the information that you have, it's going to raise some questions.
Mr. Watson, this is your car. What do you mean you don't know?
The jacket might have been Arthur's. I don't know.
Well, Arthur's wearing a jacket. So it's the first indication that Watson is lying. So there's obviously more to Mr. Watson than meets the eye.
Witnesses don't always tell you everything that occurred. They may tell you little bits and pieces to match what the evidence may show.
I know you're upset. I'll let you go. We will talk again.
I wanted to plant that seed in his mind, that his story isn't working, so that he's aware that I will come back to him.
Kenda's certain Isaac Watson isn't being completely honest, and the facts of the case are still proving elusive. Until an officer uncovers another piece of evidence.
Go for Kenda.
Lieutenant, you're gonna want to take a look at something. I'm 2 blocks south of the intersection.
You right there?
This is James Jones, the homeowner.
Thank you. So what can you tell me, Mr. Jones?
Well, I came out to see what all the commotion was about, and this is what I found.
There's fresh blood on the fence.
You want to get a tech out here to get some photographs and sample?
Looks like there's some more over here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So now that we have this other blood evidence and Watson being reluctant to talk about a knife and a jacket, maybe this isn't an attempted robbery at all.
Could the white jacket belong to an unidentified third person?
Told you, man. What's up?
And could this third person have gotten into a fight with Arthur?
Get out of my face, man.
A knife fight.
Get out of here.
Maybe this is a fight between people that know each other.
Not far from the bloody fence, investigators find another clue.
We start following what we believe to be a blood trail. It goes through a yard and ends up underneath a picnic table.
This could be the owner of the jacket in the back seat. This could be the guy that maybe gets cut with that knife in the front seat.
From the amount of blood, it's like whoever was here stayed for a while. You check with the hospitals?
Yeah.
So are they hiding? Are they drunk? What are they?
Ritz to dispatch.
Detectives contact nearby hospitals to see if anyone has been recently treated for knife wounds.
Dispatch, go ahead.
This is Ritz.
There was a male who came into St. Francis earlier this morning. His name was Pablo Ortega. He was treated for severe cuts and then released.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go.
Pablo Ortega, and he lives off of Cimarron Street. A bleeding Hispanic male, close to the scene of a shooting. This could be important.
It doesn't take long for Kenda's men to track down Pablo Ortega. Outside the residence, Kenda and his team prepare to make contact with their new prime suspect.
This could result in a gun battle in the next 10 seconds.
You just want to be prepared for anything, because when you knock on the door, you don't know what's on the other side.
We knock, the police knock, the kind that wakes the dead.
Police, open up!
As the door starts to slowly open, my first concern is, I hope I can see your hands. If I can't see your hands, you're going to see a gun. At this stage in the investigation, Arthur Gibbs is fighting for his life at St. Francis. St. Francis says they treated a Pablo Ortega for a serious cut. We believe he may be a suspect in this case. We're about to confront him.
Police, open up! Let me see your hands.
What's going on?
Is Pablo Ortega in there?
Yes.
We need to speak with him.
Pablo Ortega?
Yes.
Step out here. Quick insertion.
We explain to him why we're there. We say there's been a shooting at the intersection here by your house.
I don't know anything about a shooting. But you were involved in an altercation with somebody.
How'd you get the knife slash on your hand?
It wasn't a knife.
He goes on to tell us that he was out the night before with his girlfriend, Ernestina Martinez. She wasn't feeling well, so he took her home. He drops her off at the house, he gets ready to leave, his car won't start.
So when he goes back to Ernestina's door, Rodriguez, Ernestina's stepfather, comes to the door.
Hey, what are you doing here?
The problem is her stepfather doesn't like Pablo at all.
My car won't start.
I don't get you. Stay away from me.
I don't want any trouble.
I don't want you with my daughter.
The front door has a large window pane in it. When the stepfather tries to slam it,
Stay away from here.
Pablo breaks the glass and cuts his arm.
Hey, what the hell you doing? You bring my freaking door.
Now the stepfather is enraged.
Come here. I'm gonna kick your ass.
Ernestina's stepfather started chasing him, and that's why he ran and was climbing over fences and hiding in people's backyards.
I can take you and show you where I cut myself.
All right, let's go.
Minutes later, they arrive at Ernestina's parents' house.
See, look at the front door.
There's a big piece of cardboard over the door. There's broken glass on the porch. Glass has blood on it. Pablo's story is true.
It is a major coincidence that we have another issue going on that left a blood trail that was real close to our shooting scene.
Well, thank you for your cooperation.
We'll give you a lift home.
The next day, Kenda and his team regroup, trying once more to put the pieces of this puzzle together.
Hey, Lieutenant. Just got the lab results back on the knife that we found in the car.
Okay.
The blood on the knife actually belongs to Arthur.
Probably a drainage wound.
It is blood-soaked from the wounds in our victim.
All right, let me know if you find out anything else.
However, it's still not clear why Arthur was carrying a knife in the first place. And that's not the only thing Kenda and Ritz are struggling to make sense of.
We don't have any explanation for the white jacket in the back, which continues to bother us.
There seemed to be a third person, but nobody could quite figure out who it was or why this person wasn't coming forward.
Hoping to convince their mystery man to step up, Kenda turns to the local news media for help.
There is a Crime Stopper program in Colorado Springs on television news, encouraging people to have information about a crime to call the Crime Stoppers number.
You're really hoping that somebody involved tells a girlfriend, tells a wife, tells a brother, and that person will inevitably come forward.
Not long after reports hit the airwaves, a credible lead rolls in.
One of the Crime Stoppers tips led us to contact an individual by the name of Kenny Booth.
Hello? Oh, is this Kenny Booth?
Yeah.
So we talked to Kenny Booth by phone. He's cooperative.
I understand you have some information about the shooting near Cimarron House. Tell me what you saw.
Yes, I was in the area at the time. Driving by, I saw two cars, a black car and a green car.
He says there were 3 Hispanic guys there, and they were in a black car, and they were parked in front of the green car. Well, that's correct. Watson's car is green.
What's up, guys?
He knows our victim, Arthur, and he knows Isaac, but he also knows there was a third person in the car.
This other guy, I think his name was Raymond Baxter, who was in the back seat.
Right.
Raymond Baxter. So now there are 3 people in that car, as I suspected it would be.
Well, I appreciate the help. Thank you. Bye.
So now I know that Isaac Watson is lying. I suspected he was lying, but now I know he was.
But before Kenda re-questions Watson, he has a new man to track down.
Watson said that that other jacket probably belonged to Gibbs. It didn't belong to Gibbs. It belonged to Raymond Baxter. Raymond Baxter is a diamond in the rough. He was in the car when all this action happened. We need to find him. Here we are. We still have Arthur Gibbs in critical condition, and inch by inch, we're getting to the truth. Raymond Baxter could be the magic in this case.
Yes. Thank you for coming in, Mr. Baxter.
No problem. What do you want to know?
Raymond is cooperative. He wants to help. He says he's with him that night.
I don't know what I'm gonna do. I mean, I'm broke. I got $10, so. See, yeah, if you got $10, I got a couple dollars. You good, man? Relax.
Arthur was particularly sad because his mother and he had been evicted.
Arthur was obviously upset about his mom leaving the state.
He was in a desperate way. So Raymond and Isaac are trying to help him out.
Isaac and I, we wanted to cheer him up. Figured we'd party with him.
How specifically?
Crack. Arthur was a smoker.
We're now starting to see a different perspective of this case. We're seeing individuals involved in drugs.
Raymond explains, to help Arthur escape his troubles, he and Isaac pooled their money and bought him a little pick-me-up.
I'm not lonely.
You not no more. You got $10.
They have been up all night smoking crack, buying crack, until they're absolutely flat broke.
And they still wanted to smoke some more, so they were thinking of ways to make some money.
It was all Arthur's idea.
What was?
A way to make some more cash.
How'd you do that?
By selling soap, bunk junk.
Bunk junk in this case would be very simply something made to look like crack cocaine.
His plan is to take a bar of soap and ship it with the knife he has in the seat, cut pieces out of the bar of soap. And they look remarkably like crack cocaine. So now we've explained the knife. The knife is used to produce soap chips, not to assault people with.
But I didn't stick around to sell no soap rock. I left.
Did you leave anything behind?
Yeah. I later realized I left my jacket behind.
And he correctly described the jacket we found.
After hearing Raymond's story,
In the extra jacket?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
it's now clear why Isaac Watson lied to the police.
You don't want to talk about the drugs. Don't want to talk about the soap either. We're going to go round up Mr. Watson and re-interview him to see what else he can tell us.
We appreciate your help. Is there anything else you think we should know?
Yeah, but like I said, I left before it all went down. But as I was walking off, I do think I saw the guys that did it.
A black car pulled up with 3 Hispanic males. He said he recognized the driver.
His name is Anthony Beale.
No Mr. X anymore. It's Anthony Vigil and his buds, or who we're looking for.
You mind sticking around for a little bit? I'll show you a couple of pictures, things like that.
Okay, no problem.
You hungry?
Sure.
I'll give you some. Be right back, all right?
Okay.
While Kenda has officers out rounding up Anthony Vigil and Isaac Watson, the victim takes a turn for the worse.
Unfortunately, he never regained consciousness.
Arthur Gibbs is dead. Now it's a homicide.
Shortly after Arthur Gibbs is pronounced deceased, police arrive at the home of Anthony Vigil.
When the officers go out to his residence, we see a black car. It's consistent with the statements.
Anthony Vigil? Yeah. Hi, Colorado Springs PD. We'd like to speak to you downtown about something, if you have a minute.
I can't. I gotta take my sister to the airport or she'll miss a flight.
I'll tell you what, we don't want the young lady to miss her flight. Could you come afterwards?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
We don't have probable cause for an arrest. But we show some cooperation. We generally get some cooperation.
After Anthony drops off his sister, he sits down for a chat with Kenda.
Anthony, Lieutenant Kenda, this is Detective Ritz.
Look, man, I don't know nothing.
He didn't know nothing about nothing. He didn't know anything about a shooting. He's never been to Cimarron Institute. Anthony is a criminal. He has a history. His immediate denial of anything to do with anything is your first clue that he's involved in it.
You don't know anything at all.
I was with my girlfriend last night.
And I'm sure that she'll confirm this.
Of course.
He knows she'll lie for him. He doesn't offer a stranger as an alibi because a stranger might not go along with it. The girlfriend's loyal and he knows it.
Hip to the game Anthony is running, Kenda once again plays the good cop card.
Look, Anthony, we appreciate your cooperation in all this. Would you mind taking a polygraph?
Just help us iron out a couple things.
Sure.
I'll set that up.
They are an indicator of guilt or innocence, supposedly. But the only value to a polygraph, in my opinion, is if it elicits a statement.
Once he's hooked up to the polygraph machine, the polygraphist starts asking questions.
Are you wearing shoes?
Yes.
Do you own a black car?
Yes.
Were you with your girlfriend last night?
Yes.
Okay, Anthony, this test is over.
After the test, the examiner steps out in the hallway with me and says he is lying through his teeth. Now it's time to confront Anthony.
We want to really attack Anthony V. Hill about his statement or his lack of truthfulness. We want to make sure we have all our ducks in a row.
All right, Raymond.
So we put together a photo lineup of Anthony while he's sitting in the polygraph suite. We show it to our eyewitness, Raymond, the backseat passenger.
Do you recognize the driver of the black car from the morning when Arthur was shot?
I sure do.
It takes him less than 5 seconds.
He looks at this photo lineup and immediately identifies Anthony V. Hill.
Thank you.
Give me just a minute. I'll be right back with you.
So, Anthony, just to confirm your statement, you don't know anything about the shooting, now murder.
That's right.
Well, Anthony, the polygraph says different. Furthermore, somebody who knows you said that they saw you in your black car at the scene.
Isn't that odd, Anthony? Don't you think that's odd?
Anthony's now nervous. We've hit him with the fact that we know he's lied.
Listen, we know you were there. I can just charge you with murder right now, or you can tell us what happened.
Okay, I was there, but I didn't shoot anybody.
And who did, Anthony?
I'll tell you all about it.
Cool. That's what I want to know. We were finally able to identify the driver of the suspect vehicle, Anthony V. Hill. We have him in our hands, and he has decided to tell us what happened. The truth, finally.
He admitted that he was there at the scene. He was driving the car, but he didn't shoot anybody.
He says Carter Villarreal's in the back seat and Leo Arguello's in the right front passenger seat.
Describe Leo for us.
He was wearing a black trench coat and he's got acne scars on his cheeks.
That's the description Watson gave of the shooter.
Look, I know Leo and Carter did it, but I didn't see exactly what went on. If you want to know that, you're gonna have to ask them too.
Loyalty in the criminal world only applies in conversation. It never applies in reality.
While Kenda's team works up warrants on the two suspects, he receives some unexpected news.
You want us to bring in Leo Arguello and Carlos Villarreal?
Right.
They're already in county. They were arrested 2 days ago for robbery.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you for coming back in.
After bringing Raymond Baxter and Isaac Watson back in, Ritz puts together 2 more photo lineups, which include his new suspects.
Let me know if you see the other 2 people from the car.
Take a close look.
We showed a photo lineup to Raymond and Isaac, and they're both able to positively identify these 2 individuals as being the other 2 individuals at the scene.
That's done.
Yeah. This guy. This guy.
Sure these 2?
Those are the 2.
Okay. That's what we need.
Raymond is allowed to leave. We've got all the information we needed from him that we're going to get.
Oh, Isaac. You're not going anywhere. Sit down.
Isaac's not allowed to leave yet.
What's going on? Well, first off, I need to tell you, your friend Arthur's dead.
Now we're going to get the truth from him, finally.
Now, your friend is dead, and you're part of the reason why he's dead. Now, I want the truth. You owe it to your friend to tell me what happened.
Okay.
Watson says that they're sitting there selling soap to people, and they're getting away with it. They've made a couple of sales. This black car pulls in front of them.
You guys trying to buy some rock? Yeah, you got some? Yeah, I got some. Be right back.
So Arthur goes and manufactures the crack. And Isaac stays up there to keep them busy, talking to them about nothing, and give Arthur time to make his product. Now, is Arthur committing a crime by selling somebody a chip of soap? No. He is, on the other hand, doing something incredibly dangerous.
Yo, man.
Arthur and Isaac both expect that this car is going to leave. They don't leave. They sit there and they try to smoke it. And when they realize it melts instead of burns, and it's soap.
This isn't real. It smells like soap.
They are wild. One of the worst things you can do is actually rip off somebody in a drug deal, particularly when you're talking about cocaine.
Why are they coming back?
What the hell are you trying to pull, huh? Sorry. Huh? Who do you think I am, huh? Give me some money.
It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't matter. Leo is pissed.
Nobody does that to me. Nobody. Let's go.
Leo and Carter drive off at a high rate of speed.
Yo, Arthur! Arthur!
Isaac realizes that he's in real trouble and he takes him to the hospital. Those are the facts that we've been trying to learn for a very long time.
With Isaac Watson's statement in tow, Carter Villarreal decides he wants to speak to Kenda as well.
Oh, good. What do you have to say, Carter?
Carter admits to everything, corroborating Isaac's story.
Isaac already gave us his full statement. Do you agree with that statement?
I mean, I roughed him up a bit. All right, but I swear to God I didn't shoot nobody.
He also talks about the murder weapon.
After the shooting, Leo wants him to take the bullets and actually the cylinder of the weapon and hide it, which he does. He buries it outside his bedroom window.
Is that where it still is?
Yeah.
We used a metal detector to find the buried metal. He dug there, and in an athletic sock was the cylinder and the bullets from the murder weapon.
With his partner in crime now rolling over on him, Leo Arguello also comes clean. Arguello pleads guilty to second-degree murder and is sentenced to 48 years in prison. The driver, Anthony Vigil, pleads guilty to conspiracy and receives 12 years. And due to his cooperation, Carter Villarreal receives a reduced sentence of 5 years.
Arthur was just so young. He probably didn't have the guidance or the will to really make a decision in terms of what type of man he wanted to be in life.
What's really unfortunate about this particular case, the victim's only 20 years old. 20 years old. A death over insult has to be the worst possible reason to take a human life.
They still call it a desert that never forgets. But on the edge of a small Arizona town, there is a stretch of highway that swallowed a 17-year-old girl one summer night in 1997 and never gave her back. No storm, no wreck, no witnesses who will admit to seeing anything. Just a torn backpack, a single tennis shoe, and a silence that has been growing heavier for nearly 3 decades. It starts like 100 other nights in the high desert. August heat still radiating off the blacktop. Crickets screaming in the dry grass. Sodium streetlights throwing sickly halos over an almost empty parking lot. A convenience store glows like a little island of color in all that darkness. Inside, a security camera blinks red, recording bored faces, wandering hands, slow minutes. Nobody knows that somewhere between the shelves of cheap snacks and the door that leads back out to the night, a missing person poster is already being written. Her name is Danielle Price. Straight A, student. Varsity soccer, church youth group on Wednesdays. In the yearbook, her friends scribble things like, "Too nice to be real," and "never change." She wants to leave this dusty town, go somewhere with trees and rain, major in journalism, tell other people's stories. She doesn't know her own is about to become a headline that refuses to die. Arizona, 1997 cold case. It's a Friday night, the kind of night when nothing interesting ever happens here, which is exactly why it feels safe. Danielle clocks out of her part-time job at the grocery store at 9:02 p.m., according to the time card. Her manager remembers her saying goodnight, remembers the little wave, remembers that she seemed tired, but in a good mood. There is no sign of fear, no shadow hanging over the moment. Not yet. Her car is old, a faded blue sedan with a stubborn engine. The lot is poorly lit. A camera catches a blurry figure crossing the asphalt. The timestamp reads 9:07 p.m. Investigators will later slow the footage down frame by frame, trying to decide if the way she moves looks hurried, if the way she glances to the left means anything. People will argue about that glance in online forums for years, but in real time, nobody notices anything at all. She doesn't make it home. 10:30 comes. 10:50, 11. Her mother stands at the kitchen window, the phone on the wall, the porch light on. The desert outside feels too big, too empty. Danielle has missed curfew before, but she always calls. Tonight, the phone stays stubbornly silent, as if the line has been cut between this house and the rest of the world. At 11:23 p.m., her mother dials the number of one of Danielle's closest friends. No answer. She dials another. Someone picks up, groggy, confused. We dropped her at the store, they say. She said she'd drive straight home. It is a short drive, 12 minutes, give or take. 20 if you get stuck behind a slow truck. On that stretch of highway, it might as well be 1,000 miles. At 11:47 p.m., the call goes in to the county sheriff. Missing teenager, possibly just out with friends, maybe lost track of time. Could officers please keep an eye out? Her mother's voice cracks, but she forces herself to sound reasonable. Nobody wants to be the hysterical parent. Nobody wants to believe that something terrible can happen between here and the edge of town. A deputy cruises the route anyway. Tires hum over the asphalt as he scans the darkness on both sides. His headlights carve a narrow tunnel through the night. There's the grocery store. There's the intersection with the blinking yellow light. There's the long straightaway, where the highway pulls away from town and the land stretches out, flat and bare. No broken glass, no skid marks, no stalled vehicle. Just a whole lot of nothing. He writes in his report that he saw no signs of distress. It will be the first of many lines of ink that fail to capture the weight of what is missing. By morning, the story has already started to shift. At first, it's probably just a runaway. Teenagers leave, they get mad, they blow up at their parents, they disappear for a night, a weekend, a week. They come back when the money runs out. The sheriff's office has seen it all before. They don't know Danielle. They don't know that all the evidence of her life points one way. She was planning a future, not an escape. Her bedroom is neat, almost annoyingly so. Homework stacked, college brochures fanned out on the desk, a half-finished English essay open in her notebook. Her soccer cleats are by the door, her uniform in the laundry basket. The only thing missing is her, and the clothes she wore to work. Her wallet is gone. Her car keys are gone. Her life folded neatly around the space she left behind, waits for her to step back into it. She doesn't. By midday, the local radio station is reading a description of a 17-year-old girl over the crackle of static. Height, weight, hair color. What she was last seen wearing. Listeners pause in their kitchens, in their trucks, in the back rooms of small businesses. They glance at their daughters, their sisters, their own reflection in a window. It doesn't feel like a crime yet. It feels like a misunderstanding that will be cleared up with one phone call. But the phone call never comes. The search begins small. A few deputies, a handful of volunteers. They start at the grocery store, fan out through the parking lot, check the drainage ditch that runs along the far side. Nothing. They push outward, walking the highway shoulder in a ragged line, the sun beating down, the desert throwing heat back at them like an accusation. The air smells like dust and asphalt and something else, something metallic and sharp that nobody wants to name. Just beyond the point where the last streetlight gives up and the darkness really starts, they find it. A backpack lying on its side in the weeds, one strap twisted, the zipper half open. It's red with little patches sewn onto it, the way teenagers mark their territory on the world. A deputy calls out, and everybody stops moving at once. Inside, school notebooks, a wallet with a student ID, a crumpled pay stub from the grocery store, a photograph of 3 girls crowded together in a photo booth, faces smashed into the frame, mouths open in laughter. No blood, no obvious sign of a struggle, just a backpack that should have been tossed on the floor of a bedroom, not left to bake in the desert heat. Nearby, in the dirt, they find a single white tennis shoe. This is the moment when the story flips. When Runaway quietly slides off the table and another phrase takes its place. Possible abduction. The word feels too big for this town, too heavy, too dramatic. Like something from a movie, not something from County Road 14. But the shoe is real. The backpack is real. The empty spaces between them are real. News vans arrive faster than anyone expects. A missing girl is one thing. A missing girl and a highway littered with unanswered questions is something else. The cameras pan across the scrubby landscape, the fluttering police tape, the line of cars pulled off the shoulder. The sun bleaches everything to a harsh, unforgiving white. The anchor's voice is smooth as it cuts through the static. Breaking tonight in Arizona, a mysterious disappearance. A 17-year-old girl last seen leaving work. A cold case in the making, unless investigators can find a clue hidden somewhere in this unforgiving desert. People watch from their living rooms, from the stools of local bars, from the plastic chairs of the diner where Danielle liked to split fries with her friends. It feels surreal. This is the kind of story they're used to hearing from far-off cities, not from a place where everyone knows the names of the cashiers at the grocery store, not from a place where the desert begins at the end of your street. The investigation digs into the hours before she vanished. Who did she work with that night? Who clocked out just before her? Just after? Where did she park? Did she complain about anyone? Did she mention plans that didn't involve going straight home? Her co-workers replay the evening over and over, each time wondering if they missed something. A strange car in the lot, an unfamiliar face in the aisles, a feeling at the back of the neck that something was off. One cashier remembers a man, late 30s, baseball cap pulled low, sunglasses on even though it was already dark outside. He bought a soda, paid in cash, barely spoke. The memory sharpens under the pressure of questions. Was he watching Danielle? Did he follow her out? Or is he just a detail, a piece of static in the background, magnified because people are desperate for a villain? The grainy security footage gives investigators a possible match, a blurry shape at the counter, a cap, a tilt of the head. But the camera fails where everyone hopes it will succeed. Faces smear into indistinct shadows. License plates bloom into bright white rectangles. Unreadable. Time codes flicker, jump, drop, frames. Somewhere between one numbered second and the next, a girl walks out the door and never appears on camera again. By the second day, search teams are combing the desert with a different energy. Helicopters buzz overhead, churning up dust devils. Horses pick their way through arroyos and over low ridges. Volunteers move in slow, methodical lines. They call her name, even though they know they're not supposed to. Even though every crime show will later say that's pointless, that by the time you're out here, the odds are already stacked. But they call her anyway, because the alternative is unbearable. The community begins to fracture under the strain. Some people whisper about predators passing through on the highway. Truckers, drifters, strangers with no ties and no reason to stay. Others look closer to home. A teacher who seemed a little too interested. A neighbor who keeps to himself. A classmate who nursed a quiet obsession. Every man with a temper. Every loner. Every person who's ever made someone uncomfortable gets their name passed around in living rooms and group texts and nervous conversations in the grocery store aisle. Fear does what it always does in a small town. It looks for a face to attach itself to. At the high school, Danielle's locker becomes a shrine. Photos taped up, candles, handwritten notes that all say some version of the same thing: come home. Counselors tell students that it's okay to be scared, okay to be angry. They don't know that some of those students will still be talking about this case 20, 30 years later. That they'll grow up, leave town, have children of their own, and still check the news every now and then to see if there's been an arrest, a confession, a sudden break after all this time. On the third day, a press conference. The sheriff stands under a white canopy, the desert stretching away behind him like a blank page. Reporters crowd forward, microphones thrust out, cameras rolling. The sheriff's words are careful, measured, ongoing investigation, all resources being used, requests for the public's help. He doesn't say murder. He doesn't say body. He doesn't say cold case. But those words are already echoing in people's minds. A reporter asks if they're looking at someone specific. "Is there a suspect in this case?" she says, voice crisp, eyes steady. The sheriff hesitates for half a second that will be replayed in slow motion in future documentaries, dissected by armchair detectives. Then he answers, "At this time, we are not ruling anything out." In the months that follow, that sentence will become a kind of curse. Not ruling anything out means they don't really know. Not ruling anything out means anything is possible. And in a case like this, anything is a terrifying word. The tips start flooding in as soon as the flyers go up. It's always like that in the first days of a missing person case. Everyone has seen something. Everyone knows someone. Everyone has a theory. A girl on the late shift at a fast food place swears she saw Danielle's car turning onto a side road around 10 that night. A retired truck driver reports a dark pickup parked on the shoulder near where the backpack was found. A couple driving home from a movie think they saw a girl walking along the highway, alone, head down, arms wrapped tight around herself. Detectives listen, take notes, draw lines on a map, watch as pins cluster along that stretch of road like a rash. They drive out every tip they can. The side road leads to nothing but a locked gate and private land. The dark pickup belongs to a ranch hand who was fixing a flat. The girl on the side of the road, if she was ever really there, dissolves into the hot, shimmering air like a mirage. They interview the family again and again. Where was everyone that night? Who could have a reason to hurt her? Is there anyone? Ex-boyfriend? Angry co-worker? Jealous friend? Who stands out? Her father goes cold and still at the table, hands folded so tightly his knuckles shine. Her mother cries until her voice is gone, then keeps talking anyway, hoarse and pleading. Her younger brother stares at the floor, answering in monosyllables, clearly furious that anyone needs to ask these questions at all. Behind the two-way mirror, detectives watch, arms crossed. They know statistically that in many missing persons cases, the danger comes from someone close. Husband, parent, boyfriend. But every time they push, all they find is grief, raw and bottomless. No slip-up, no inconsistent story, no flash of guilt in the eyes when a certain detail is mentioned. If there is a monster in that house, it's the thing sitting at the kitchen table with her parents. the empty chair where she should be. The man in the baseball cap becomes an early obsession. Officers canvass every gas station, every diner, every motel within a 50-mile radius, holding up a blurry printout from the security tape. "You seen this guy?" They ask it until the question wears grooves in their throats. Some shrug. Some think maybe. One clerk says, "Yeah, he comes in sometimes, always buys the same brand of cigarettes, drives a white van with a dent in the side." That lead explodes into action. An APB, patrol cars parked at highway pull-offs, officers watching every white van that passes like it's carrying a ghost. They stop 3 different white vans in the first day. One belongs to a plumber, one to a church group transporting folding chairs, one to a man on his way to help his brother move. They're all annoyed. A couple are nervous, but none of them are the man from the tape. The clerk starts to doubt herself. Maybe the hat was different. Maybe it was a different night. Memory is elastic. It stretches to fit what you need it to hold. Rumors mutate. Some say there was blood in the car. Others say the car hasn't been found at all. The truth is somewhere in between. The car appears on the 4th day, abandoned behind an old service station 10 miles out of town, half hidden by rusting equipment and tumbleweeds. No smashed windows, no bullet holes. The driver's door is unlocked. The keys are gone. Inside, the air is stale and hot. A faint scent of her. Shampoo, gum, some teenage mixture of perfume and sweat, and life interrupted. On the passenger seat, a folded sweater. In the back, a fast food bag, now crawling with ants. There are no obvious signs of a struggle. No hair, no fibers, no message carved into the dashboard. But on the edge of the driver's seat, near where her thigh would have been, there's a smear of something dark. It could be oil. It could be dirt. It could be dried blood. Technicians glide in, gloved and careful, lifting prints from the steering wheel, from the door handles, from the rearview mirror. Some belong to Danielle, some to her family, some to friends who've hitched rides home from school, from practice, from late-night hangouts. Mixed in with those, a handful of unidentified prints. They're logged, photographed, entered into a system that, in 1997, still belongs more to the future than the present. The smear on the seat is collected, labeled, sent off to a lab where strangers in white coats will spin it, stain it, coax secrets out of it at a microscopic level. In theory, science can speak when witnesses stay silent. In theory. Time keeps moving. The posters fade in the sun. The candles at the vigil melt into puddles of wax. The news vans drift away in search of fresher tragedies. At first, the case lives at the top of the evening broadcast. Day 5, in the search for 17-year-old Danielle Price. Then it moves down, squeezed between weather and sports. Then it disappears from the nightly rundown, resurfacing only when there's a new development, which becomes rarer with each passing week. Inside the sheriff's department, the case file grows fat. Polygraph results, lead sheets, phone logs, maps marked with colored pins, transcribed interviews with everyone from classmates to ex-boyfriends to that one guy who made a weird comment at the diner last year. Some faces show up again and again in those reports, always on the periphery, always almost interesting and then not. There's the teacher who used to give her rides home, the assistant manager at the grocery store who scheduled her shifts, the neighbor who claims he saw a car idling outside her house the week before she vanished. Each time detectives push, they hit the same wall. Alibis that hold. Timelines that bend but don't break. Stories that might be creepy but aren't provably criminal. They spin the board around, look at it from every angle, and still the pattern refuses to reveal itself. The town adjusts with a kind of grim resignation. Parents tighten curfews. Girls who once walked home in pairs now call older brothers or fathers to pick them up. A self-defense class at the community center suddenly has a waiting list. Conversations trail off when someone walks into the room. Laughter returns, but it sounds different, like it's happening one floor above a basement full of locked doors. Every few months, the case flares back to life. A body found in a different county, matching the general description. A confession from a drifter picked up for another crime. A serial offender passing through the area that summer. His route overlapping with that stretch of Arizona highway. Each time, hope spikes, sick and sharp. Each time, tests come back negative. Alibis check out. Timelines don't quite match. 1 year after her disappearance, a local paper runs a feature. Still missing, the vanishing of Danielle Price. The article is slick, well written, full of quotes from heartbroken friends and frustrated detectives. A grainy photo of the backpack, a clearer one of Danielle, smiling at the camera, her eyes catching the light just so. The headline never uses the word murder. It doesn't have to. Everyone reads it that way. Somewhere in the middle of the second year, the active search slows. Not officially. No one comes out and says, "We're giving up." But the dogs don't get called out as often. The overtime budget shrinks. Detectives who've been living and breathing the case are reassigned to newer crimes that come with fresher footprints. On paper, the investigation continues. In reality, the desert begins to reclaim the places where boots once trampled every inch of dirt in hope of turning up a clue. The case drifts into a different category. Not closed, not forgotten, but something heavier. A cold case. 2 words that sound clinical, almost neat, as if putting them in a different file drawer changes the rawness of what happened. The family hates that phrase. To them, nothing about this is cold. The pain is immediate, hot as that August asphalt every single day. Years begin to stack. The world changes. New technologies crawl into the back rooms of police departments. DNA, once exotic, becomes a word even people who've never seen a lab understand. National databases grow fatter, hungrier, more precise. Cases that once would have stayed unsolved forever suddenly crack open with a single match, a microscopic pattern repeating itself in places it shouldn't. But in this town, in this file, the pattern remains stubbornly incomplete. Every anniversary, a reporter calls the sheriff's office. Any updates on the Price case? Every anniversary, there is a slightly different version of the same answer. We continue to follow leads. We have not given up hope. We encourage anyone with information to come forward. These quotes become background noise, as familiar as the hum of the air conditioner in summer. Online, though, the case refuses to fade. A message board thread starts on a true crime forum in the early 2000s. Just a single post at first, from someone who went to school with her. "Do you remember the girl who disappeared from our town?" they write. Replies, trickle in. People share their memories, their rumors, their what-ifs. Someone uploads scanned newspaper clippings. Someone else claims to have inside information, but never fully backs it up. The thread lies dormant for months, then bursts back into life when a new person stumbles across it and falls down the rabbit hole. The internet loves a mystery, especially one with a pretty, smiling girl at the center and a clean, chilling hook. Left work, never made it home. Strangers hundreds of miles away who've never set foot in Arizona begin tracing maps, comparing timelines, overlaying Danielle's disappearance with other crimes in the region. Names of convicted killers get thrown into the mix like puzzle pieces from the wrong box. Some theories are careful, almost forensic. Others are wild, conspiratorial, anchored more in the poster's fears than in any evidence. The family watches these from a distance. Sometimes they can't help themselves. They read the threads late at night, scrolling through strangers' speculation about their deepest loss. Other times, they avoid it like a wound that won't stop bleeding when touched. Either way, the case is no longer just theirs, no longer just the town's. It belongs to a wider world now, to that restless, sleepless part of the internet that hunts for answers in the dark. There are suspects who never make the news. The co-worker who changed his story about when he left the store that night, then changed it again. The older man who had been seen talking to Danielle at a church fundraiser, who moved away a few months after she vanished. The ex-con who lived in a trailer not far from where the backpack was found, whose criminal record read like a warning label. Detectives dig into each of their lives, peel back layers, look for the one crack that will let them pry the truth out. But the thing about real monsters is that they don't always leave teeth marks. Sometimes, all they leave behind is white noise, coincidences, a feeling in the pit of your stomach that something is wrong with this person, but not the kind of wrong that can hold up in court. A detective named Keller quietly becomes the keeper of the case. He wasn't lead investigator at the time. Back in '97, he was still a patrol officer, writing speeding tickets and breaking up bar fights. But the disappearance got under his skin. He remembers standing on that highway shoulder in the first days. The sun so bright it made his head pound. The backpack sitting in the dirt like an accusation. Over the years, even as cases pile up on his desk, he keeps Danielle's file nearby. He takes it home sometimes, reads it late at night when the house is quiet, the glow of the desk lamp the only island of light in the room. He watches his own daughter grow up, move through the same milestones Danielle never got to reach. Graduation, college, first apartment, and with each year, his resolve hardens. There is a person out there walking around in the same world, breathing the same air, carrying knowledge of those missing minutes on that highway like a private poisonous secret. Keller can't let that stand. Not forever. He begins to push, gently at first, for the old evidence to be revisited with new tools. The smear on the car seat, the hairs found in the floor mat, the unidentified fingerprints lifted from the door handle. We didn't have what we have now, he tells his captain. Back then, we were working with a flashlight and a notepad. Now we've got a floodlight. Let's shine it. Budgets, backlogs, larger departments in bigger cities ahead of them in line for lab time. These are the obstacles every rural investigator knows too well. The answer is always some variation of "we'll see," which in bureaucratic language usually means "don't hold your breath." Keller doesn't. He keeps breathing, He keeps pushing. Meanwhile, life in town bends around the absence the way a tree grows around a missing branch. People still mention the case the way they mention the weather or the high school football team, a constant undercurrent in the collective story they tell about this place. You remember when that girl went missing? They say to newcomers, to their kids when they get old enough. That's why we don't let you hitchhike. That's why you call when you leave work. That's why you carry your phone. Out on the highway, the spot where the backpack was found looks like any other patch of desert now. Weeds, rocks, scraps of windblown trash. But for those who were here in '97, for those who walked that shoulder under the unforgiving sun, it will never be just another stretch of dirt. It's a wound in the landscape, thinly scabbed over by time. 2 decades pass. In that span, the world learns to say phrases like cold case solved, with a weird mixture of satisfaction and dread. Stories on the news about 50-year-old murders cracked by a forgotten cigarette butt, about missing women finally identified by a strand of hair sealed in an envelope and long ignored. The idea seeps into public consciousness. The past isn't as buried as it looks. Evidence waits. Science advances. Somewhere, in a freezer or a filing cabinet, the puzzle pieces are already cut. They just need the right machine to click them into place. In a cluttered evidence room in Arizona, a thin cardboard box with D. Price, scrawled on the side, gathers dust. Inside, in carefully labeled bags, the artifacts of one girl's last known hours wait in the dark. A backpack, a wallet, a sweater, swabs from a car seat, objects that have been examined, catalogued, dismissed as inconclusive. So many times, they've almost become just props in a story everyone thinks they know by heart. Almost. Because one afternoon, nearly 25 years after Danielle Price walked out of her job and into the teeth of the unknown, someone signs that box out again, carries it down a fluorescent-lit hallway, sets it on a table with a new kind of determination. The label still says cold case, but the air feels different. The technology has changed. The rules of the game have shifted. For the first time in a long time, there is something electric sparking under the skin of this old file. And somewhere out there, miles away from that evidence room, a man who's grown older, who's learned to live with his own history like a shadow that never quite detaches from his heels, has no idea that the past he thought was safely buried under layers of time and silence is finally, quietly starting to thaw. The request starts as an email, the kind that could easily get lost in a cluttered inbox. No red banner, no flashing lights, just a subject line that reads, Cold Case Evidence Review, Potential Uploads. It's from a lab analyst in the state crime lab who has been combing through old case lists, cross-referencing them against new grant money, new equipment, new initiatives. If you have unsolved cases with preserved biological evidence, the message says, we may be able to assist with advanced testing and database searches. Keller sees it late in the afternoon, when his eyes are already tired and the light coming through his office window has gone gold and low. He almost flags it to deal with later. Almost. Instead, he clicks it open, reads it twice, then swivels his chair to the shelf where the binders live. The price file sits there, its spine cracked, edges worn. He doesn't need to read the label. His hand goes straight to it, like it's magnetic. Minutes later, he's downstairs in the evidence room, the air cool and stale, dust motes drifting lazily in the fluorescent hum. The clerk looks up from her desk as he approaches the counter. There's something in his face she hasn't seen in a while. Something like momentum. "You're signing that one out again?" she asks, glancing at the familiar box. "Yeah," Keller says. "Might have a shot at something we didn't have before." She doesn't ask which case. She doesn't have to. Around here, everyone knows what that one is. The box lands with a soft thud on a metal table in the small conference room where he set up a kind of shrine to cold cases. Pinboards, printouts, photographs curling at the edges. He lifts the lid. Inside, the evidence bags crinkle softly as he moves them aside. The backpack, the sweater, the car seat swabs. Each item is both heartbreakingly ordinary and unbearably heavy. A teenager's stuff, frozen in time. Back in '97, they tested what they could. Technology then was like a blunt instrument, good for exclusions, for broad strokes, but not the scalpel it is now. The results from the smear on the driver's seat were frustratingly vague. Biological material present, degraded, insufficient for a full profile. They logged it as inconclusive, filed the report, moved on. Now, labs can coax a DNA whisper out of things that used to be considered hopeless. Touched items, tiny stains, old samples that have spent decades in storage. Low copy number, next generation sequencing, enhanced extraction, words that didn't exist in the practical vocabulary of a small-town investigator in the late '90s. Keller photographs each bag again, a fresh digital record. Then he calls the number in the email. The analyst on the other end sounds younger than the case file he's talking about. There's a brightness in her voice, the kind that comes from believing in what science can do, even when bureaucracy and human failure get in the way. He walks her through the evidence. The car, the smear, the way the original report described it. She asks precise questions. What kind of storage? Temperature? Any known contamination issues? He answers as best he can. "We can't promise anything," she says finally, honest. "But if there's anything usable left, our newer kits might pick it up. And if we can get even a partial profile, we've got more databases to run it through than we did back then." Keller glances at the file spread out in front of him, at Danielle's school photo clipped to the front page. "A partial is more than we've got now," he says. The box travels, signed out on a chain of custody form that stretches back through years of false starts and dead ends, hand to hand, building to building, until it arrives at the lab, another fluorescent-lit room, this one humming with machines and refrigerated units instead of coffee-stale air and old case files. The smear from the seat is so small it barely shows up against the cotton swab. Under a microscope, it's just a faint discoloration, a ghost of what it once was. The analyst logs it, photographs it, documents each step like she's narrating a ritual. Then she begins the process of waking it up. There is no dramatic movie montage here, no pounding music, just steady work. Chemicals added in precise amounts, temperatures controlled, timers set. Old cells, long dried, are coaxed into giving up what's left of their code. There is something both clinical and intimate about it, digging into the microscopic residue of an encounter that someone has worked very hard to erase. Some of the material fails straight away, too degraded. Time and heat and poor storage have done their work, but not all of it. In one tube, In one tiny fraction of the original sample, there is enough. Barely. The amplification process begins, copying and recopying fragments until there's enough to interpret. On the lab's computer screen, peaks rise and fall across a graph, like the skyline of a strange city. A profile begins to emerge, not complete, not perfect, but real. Not Danielle, not a family member, not anyone whose DNA is already in the known offender database. They run it anyway, because that's the step, that's the drill. No direct hit. But the world of DNA has changed. You no longer need a one-to-one match to pull a thread. Sometimes all it takes is a third cousin who uploaded a kit to see which far-flung relatives share their high cheekbones or their family history of heart disease. Genetic genealogy, a phrase that 30 years ago would have sounded like science fiction, now sits on intake forms and grant applications. The analyst brings the possibility to her supervisor. "It's a cold case," she says. 17-year-old girl vanished off a highway. We've got a partial profile that looks workable. With permission, we could try uploading to a genealogy database. See if we get any distant relatives. Build a tree. It's outside the normal offender database, but, that's the word that hangs between them. But this is delicate. But this is new legal terrain. But families might not like knowing their Saturday afternoon curiosity with a mail-in kit could be the reason a long-hidden crime rises to the surface. In the end, the supervisor says what people in charge of hard decisions have been saying since the beginning of law enforcement. We follow the guidelines, we document everything, and we remember why we're here. The request goes through the necessary channels, climbs the necessary ladders. Somewhere on the other side of that bureaucratic climb, a signature is added, a permission granted. The data, reduced, coded, anonymized, is uploaded to a database where millions of other profiles sit like stars in a digital sky. Most stay unrelated, scattered points of light that never connect. A few do. When the analyst comes in on a Tuesday morning, coffee in hand, she's not expecting fireworks. These things take time, days, weeks, sometimes months. She logs in anyway, habit more than hope. There it is. Not a blazing, undeniable match, not a bold-faced, "This is your killer." Just a quiet notification. New relative match found, estimated second to third cousin. The percentage of shared DNA is small, but significant. A name, an email, a location, another state, hundreds of miles away from that Arizona highway. This is where the science hands off to something messier, people. The genealogist joins the case like a guest star in a long-running show. She doesn't carry a gun. She doesn't interrogate suspects. She carries charts and markers and an encyclopedic knowledge of how families knot themselves together across regions and generations. Give her a relative's name, a rough age, and a location, and she can start spinning out branches. The match in the database is a man in his 30s who did a test for fun, according to the note on his profile. He wanted to see if the family lore about Irish ancestry held up. He has no idea his DNA just brushed up against a crime scene from 1997. The genealogist doesn't go to his house. She doesn't call him. Instead, she goes sideways and backward. Census records, birth certificates, obituaries, marriage licenses, all the paper trails people leave behind while going about their ordinary, unremarkable lives. She traces siblings, aunts, uncles, grandparents, spins a web that reaches back to a couple in the 1940s with 3 sons and 2 daughters, each branch splitting again and again. She's not looking for the man in the database. She's looking for the people he could be related to, who were the right age, in the right place, at the right time. The list begins long. Too many names. Too many possibles. Slowly, she and Keller work side by side, crossing people off. This one was living overseas in '97. That one wasn't born yet. Another has a well-documented life in another state. No connection to Arizona at all. The circle tightens. They find a branch of the family that drifted through the Southwest in the 80s and 90s. One brother settles in New Mexico, another in Nevada, a third, Arizona, for a few short years. He worked odd jobs, construction, deliveries, the kind of work that leaves your name off the marquee but your sweat on the foundation. Fired from a couple of places for anger issues, according to notes tucked into an old personnel file. There's more. An arrest record. Minor offenses at first. Drunk and disorderly, trespassing, a bar fight that got out of hand. Then something nastier. An assault charge that ended in a plea deal. The police report describes a woman pushed against a car in a dark parking lot, a hand over her mouth. She got away. She didn't press it to trial. People rarely do. The year of that report? 1996. The detective in Keller wakes up in full. He pulls everything he can on the man. Old addresses, employer records, contact numbers buried in dusty databases. A pattern emerges. A brief, unremarkable residency in the same county where Danielle disappeared. A job that would have put him on the roads at odd hours. A pickup truck registered in his name. Dark, unspecified make and model in the few surviving notes. It's not proof. It's smoke. But it's a lot of smoke blowing in the same direction. Keller doesn't say the man's name out loud in the squad room at first. He writes it at the top of a fresh legal pad, underlines it once, twice. Then he and a younger detective, Morales, who was a kid when Danielle vanished, who grew up in the same town under the shadow of her missing poster, begin the slow work of turning him from a name on a family tree into a living, breathing suspect. They knock on doors. They find former co-workers who remember him as quick to anger, a neighbor who says he was the type who watched people too long, an ex-girlfriend who doesn't want to talk at first, then does. The story that comes out is all the things domestic violence reports are made of. Control, sudden rages, apologies that never stick. When they show her a photo of Danielle, ask if she recognizes the girl, her eyes flicker just slightly. She looks like the kind he'd stare at. The ex says quietly, he always noticed the young ones. At the grocery store, at the mall, he'd make comments. I thought it was just gross. I never thought about this. They learn he left Arizona abruptly in late '97, not long after the disappearance, moved back closer to family. New job, new town, new start. He never went to prison. Never faced a charge that stuck hard enough to take away his freedom. He just slid sideways, the way men like him do when the world lets them. Now he's older, living in a different state, working a blue-collar job. Neighbors describe him as quiet, maybe a little odd, keeps to himself, no wife, no kids, a dog he walks at the same time every morning. They have no idea they're sitting at the edge of a crater, from another life he thought was buried. Keller and Morales fly out with a small team, the weight of decades in their carry-on luggage. There's paperwork, coordination with local law enforcement, the choreography of making sure things are done by the book. But under all of that, there's something simple and brutal. After all these years, they might finally be about to look the man who took Danielle in the eye. They don't knock on his door with sirens blaring. They go in quietly, the way you approach a wild animal you don't want to spook. They introduce themselves as investigators from Arizona, here to talk about an old case. He seems puzzled at first, wary but not panicked. He invites them into a living room that smells faintly of dust and dog hair. A muted TV flickers in the corner. Morales watches his hands. People's eyes learn to lie. Their hands are slower students. They ask him if he ever lived in Arizona. Yes, he says, briefly. Worked construction. Didn't like the heat. Left after a couple of years. They ask if he remembers a girl going missing back then. A teenager. Big local story. Something moves in his face. Just a twitch, a flicker, a shadow. But once you've spent your life watching for those movements, you don't miss them. I don't remember anything about that, he says. His hands, resting on his knees, have gone very, very still. Keller has been in enough living rooms like this to know that stillness can be louder than panic. Panic thrashes, flails, spills over in protests and denials. Stillness is calculation. Stillness is a man running scenarios in his head at high speed, deciding which version of himself to present. He smiles a little, the edges of his mouth not quite reaching his eyes. Like I said, he repeats, a fraction too carefully, I don't remember anything about that. Morales keeps her voice soft. It was a big case for us. Young girl, vanished on her way home from work. You sure it doesn't ring a bell? Grocery store, outside town, backpack found on the highway. That kind of thing tends to stick with people. Silence stretches out between them. The TV murmurs in the background, some daytime talk show argument turned down low. Outside, a dog barks twice and is quiet. He shifts in his chair. That's all. A small adjustment, as if his skin doesn't fit quite right all of a sudden. Lots of bad things happen in the world, he says finally. Can't remember all of them. Keller nods, like that's reasonable, like he's willing to let the comment float there without jab or hook. He doesn't pull out pictures yet. He doesn't say her name. Not the way you'd think, not with a dramatic flourish. Instead, he eases into it sideways, the way you step into cold water. The girl's name was Danielle, he says. Danielle Price, 17. Worked at a grocery store not far from the highway. You probably drove past it 100 times if you were in the area back then. Had one of those big cartoon cactus signs out front. Hard to miss. A tiny pulse flickers in the man's jaw, like a wire twitching under skin. I don't remember, he says again, but there's less air in the words now. Morales leans forward, elbows on her knees, hands loosely clasped. She's young, but she's done enough interviews to understand that you lure people into talking by making silence uncomfortable and your own posture relaxed. We're not here to accuse you of anything, she says. We're going back through that summer. Anybody we can place in the area, we're talking to. You're one of a long list. That's not entirely a lie. Over the years, they have talked to plenty of people who happen to be near that highway, that store, that town. But none of those other people have their DNA whispering from the driver's seat of a missing girl's car. He looks at her, then at Keller, measuring them. "So what?" he says slowly. "You flew all the way out here to ask me if I remember some girl going missing 20-something years ago?" Keller's voice stays steady. "We flew out because we're taking another run at the case. New methods, new databases. Sometimes that turns up new names, new connections. Sometimes those connections lead back to folks who had nothing to do with it, and we cross them off and move on. Sometimes they don't." He doesn't say the words genetic match. He doesn't have to. They sit there, invisible, between them. The man's gaze drifts toward the hallway, where a closed door leads deeper into the house. It's a flicker, just a second, but Keller catches it. He files it away. People look where their mind runs when it wants escape. Closets, bedrooms, back doors. "What kind of new methods?" the man asks. Keller shrugs, casual. "Science stuff, not really my lane. But you've seen the news, right? All those cold cases getting solved off spit on a napkin from 30 years ago. It's that kind of thing. Evidence doesn't forget as easily as people do." The man's throat works. He swallows. His hands remain on his knees, fingers pressed flat as if he's physically holding himself in place. Morales flips open a folder, slides a photo out, and sets it on the coffee table between them. Not the worst of them. Not the backpack in the dirt or the single tennis shoe. It's Danielle's school photo, the one with the soft lighting and the slightly awkward tilt of her head, the smile that doesn't know yet how long it's going to have to haunt people. He glances at it and away so fast it almost looks accidental. But not quite. There's familiarity in that flicker, the kind you don't have for a stranger's face in an old newspaper clipping. "You're sure you never saw her?" Morales asks quietly. He stares at the TV instead of the picture. "I said I don't remember," he mutters. In another room, another part of town, local officers are already working off the warrant Keller's team brought with them. Trash pull, a coffee cup left in a bin outside his workplace, a cigarette butt on the sidewalk by his truck. It's legal, quiet, and the kind of thing people aren't trained by crime shows to be paranoid about yet. Keller knows that DNA will tell the story in a lab in a few days. But he also knows what it means to sit in front of a man who might have stolen 25 years from a family and give him a chance to write his own ending. "Here's the thing," he says, leaning back, making his tone almost conversational. "We're going to get a sample from you one way or another. You can volunteer it, which tends to look better when all this gets written down and told in court later. Or we can do it with a warrant and a lot more noise. But either way, the science is going to say what it's going to say. You can't argue with molecules. They don't care if you don't remember." For a moment, Keller thinks he's going to refuse, that the man will dig in, lawyer up, make a stand here in this beige-carpeted living room that smells like old coffee and dog food. Instead, something shifts. Maybe it's the inevitability in Keller's voice. Maybe it's the weight of 25 years pressing down from some dark corner of his mind. He lets out a slow breath. "Fine," he says, the word a small surrender. "If it shuts this down, take your sample." They do it in the kitchen, under the watchful eyes of two local officers. Swab across the inside of his cheek, a quick sweep that gathers cells he's been shedding without thinking his whole life. He tries for nonchalance, but his jaw is rigid. His eyes keep darting to the back door like he wants to run, but he doesn't. Running is a young man's move. He's not young anymore. After he wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, like the swab was something invasive. "You'll see," he says. "You're barking up the wrong tree. I didn't hurt anyone." Morales looks at him with a calm that feels like a mirror. "We're going to let the lab decide that." They leave him in that house for now. The law demands patience, steps followed in sequence. They can't put cuffs on him based on a partial profile and a family tree. They need the clean hit, the overlay of lines on a screen that say, without a doubt, the DNA on that car seat belongs to this man, sitting in this chair, breathing this air. On the flight back, Morales stares out the window at the curve of the earth, her mind replaying every micro-expression, every stutter, every fleeting glance. "You think he's the one," she says. Keller doesn't answer right away. He's seen enough almost answers to know better than to crown anyone in his head before the lab signs off. Finally, he says, "I think he's not afraid of us. I think he's afraid of something else. And I think that something is sitting in a freezer in a lab right now, waiting to talk." The sample goes through the process in a different city, a different building full of machines and quiet concentration. It doesn't take as long this time. The DNA is fresh, abundant, the biological equivalent of a full-throated shout. When they run it against the degraded profile pulled from the old swab, the software doesn't hesitate. Match. The word might as well be a gavel hitting wood. The scientist on duty double-checks, then triple-checks. She calls her supervisor over, and they look at the graphs together, the peaks and valleys lining up like a fingerprint. They don't know Danielle. They don't know the smell of the desert at night on that highway. But they understand what this means in every way that matters. The call to Keller comes late in the afternoon. He recognizes the lab's number and feels his heart hammer once, hard against his ribs before he even picks up. "We've got it," the analyst says. No fanfare. "Full match between your suspect and the sample from the car seat. There's no question. It's the same guy." Keller closes his eyes. For a second, years collapse. He's back on that highway, sun hammering his skull, the backpack lying in the dust like a question nobody knows how to answer. Then the years snap back into place, stacked and heavy, and he opens his eyes again. "All right," he says, voice steady. "Send everything over. We're going to get a warrant." The paperwork moves faster this time. Judges have seen enough headlines about DNA and decades-old murders to understand the weight of what's being placed in front of them. The affidavit is thick, packed with genealogical charts, lab reports, travel records, that old assault charge from '96, the abrupt departure from Arizona. It tells a story about a man whose life intersects with a missing girl's at all the wrong points. When the arrest warrant comes through, there's no hesitation. Keller and Morales are back on a plane, back to that small, stale living room, with the muted TV and the dog hair on the sofa. This time, they don't come as politely. Sirens stay off. They don't need a show for the neighbors, but uniforms are visible. There's a set to everyone's shoulders, a readiness in every step. They're not here to talk this time. They're here to take. He opens the door before they knock, like he's been waiting, like he felt something in the air shift the moment the ink dried on that warrant. His face is shuttered. the easy confusion gone. For the first time, Keller sees not the quiet neighbor, not the put-upon man irritated by old questions, but the hollow behind the eyes. The space where something human should be and isn't. Mr. Harris, Keller says, using the name now, clear and official, anchoring it to the moment. You're under arrest for the kidnapping and murder of Danielle Price. The word murder hits the air like a dropped weight. For 25 years, everyone has danced around it with softer phrases. Disappearance, missing person, unresolved case. Saying it out loud now feels like breaking glass. His reaction is small but telling. A flash of panic, there and gone. His mouth opens, closes. You can't prove, he starts, then clamps down on the sentence, as if he's just realized he doesn't know where it was going to end. Morales steps forward, reading the rights in a voice that never stumbles. He listens, jaw tight, eyes flicking from one face to another, looking for some crack in this reality he can slip through. There isn't one. When they cuff him, his hands are no longer still. They tremble, just slightly, against the metal. At the station, the process is mechanical. Booking photo, fingerprints, property logged. But there's a tension in the air that makes everything feel sharper, more brittle. Officers who were rookies when the case was already a cautionary tale move with the sense that they're walking through a story they grew up hearing, now suddenly on the inside of it. In the interrogation room, he sits at the metal table, cuffs anchored to a loop, the fluorescent lights turning his skin sallow. Keller and Morales sit across from him, the file between them thick as a brick, years compressed into paper. We have your DNA in her car, Keller says. No warm-up this time. On the driver's seat mixed with hers. You were never friends. You were never invited inside that car. You left Arizona right after she disappeared. You've got a history of violence against women. Tell me why any of that looks like an innocent coincidence. He leans back, stares at the wall. Lawyer, he says. Morales nods like she expected it. That's your right, she says. We'll stop asking questions. The evidence will do the talking. They leave him there, a man in a small room with a metal table and a camera in the corner. On the other side of the mirror, Keller watches, fists pressed against his own ribs as if to keep something inside. He wanted a confession, some human voice to fill in the blacked-out parts of the story. Where he took her, what he said, how long she was afraid. He might still get that. Some suspects crack when they realize the science won't bend. But even if he doesn't, the case has shifted. For the first time in 25 years, they have a name and a face attached to the blank space where unknown suspect has sat like a curse. Back in Arizona, phones start ringing before the ink on the press release is dry. Local news, regional outlets, national crime shows that keep lists of unresolved tragedies to revisit when the wheel of justice finally clicks forward. The headline writes itself in the rhythm viewers have learned to crave. Arizona, 1997 cold case solved. DNA link leads to arrest after 25 years. But in the Price household, the word solved tastes complicated. It doesn't taste like triumph. It tastes like digging up a grave that's never had a body in it, like reopening every wound at once. Danielle's mother sits at the kitchen table where she once waited for a phone call that never came, the receiver cold against her hand. Now the call has come, but it's not the one she wanted. It's Keller's voice, older, worn thin in places, carrying news that is both everything and not nearly enough. "We've made an arrest," he says. "We believe we have the man who took Danielle." For a second, she can't speak. The kitchen blurs. The fridge hums like it did that night in '97, a constant, indifferent reminder that the world goes on. When she finds her voice, it's small. "You're sure?" she whispers. "We have his DNA in her car," Keller says. "We have him placed in the area at the time. We're sure enough to charge. We're sure enough to stand up in court and say his name." Out on that same stretch of highway, the desert doesn't react. The road hums with traffic, people heading to work, to dinner, to the next town over. The spot where the backpack once lay looks as forgettable as any other patch of scrub. The land has no concept of solved. It just takes and covers and waits. The case file, thicker than some phone books, is pulled from the cold case shelf and dropped onto an active caseload desk. Sticky notes bloom on its cover. Court dates are penciled in. Witnesses from half a lifetime ago are tracked down and asked to remember the color of a hat, the make of a car, the sound of a girl's laugh through the fluorescent buzz of a grocery store. The story that began in August 1997 with a missing teenager and a torn backpack has finally reached the moment all the shows and headlines call the break. But as everyone will soon learn, the word solved isn't a clean ending. It's just a new chapter, loud and messy, built on the bones of all the years when the only answer anyone had was a question. The story doesn't come back to town quietly. It arrives in push alerts and breaking banners, in anchors' grave voices and looping footage of a highway shoulder that hasn't changed much since the late '90s. B-roll of the grocery store, older now, its sign faded, plays next to a current booking photo of a man with thinning hair and a face that looks both ordinary and exhausted. Between those images, the headline crawls like a siren. Arizona, 1997 cold case solved. Arrest shocks community. People who were teenagers then are middle-aged now, watching the news with their own kids on the couch beside them. "That's the case I told you about," they say, pointing to the screen. "That girl who disappeared when I was your age." Their children glance at the photo of Danielle, at the man in cuffs, trying to connect the frightened curiosity they feel with the stories their parents have half-whispered for years. The town itself reacts like an old wound that's been torn open. At the diner, conversation dips as the footage plays on the TV bolted to the wall. Forks pause halfway to mouths. A waitress who went to high school with Danielle disappears into the back, blinking fast, hands shaking as she reaches for a stack of plates. In the grocery store, new manager, new owners, same hum of refrigeration, employees find an excuse to linger near the break room television, eyes fixed, the mundane rhythm of scanning barcodes suddenly flimsy in the face of the past surging up like a dust storm. Reporters descend again, just like they did in '97, but some of them are different faces now. A new generation of crime correspondents, raised on the very kinds of stories they're covering, arrives with satellite trucks and prepared lines about justice after decades and the power of modern DNA. They knock on doors up and down the street where the Price family still lives. Some people talk, eager to get their version of events on camera at last. Others close their blinds, remembering how intrusive those cameras felt the first time. Danielle's parents agree to one interview, just one. They sit side by side on their worn couch, hands joined so tightly it looks like they're holding onto a ledge only they can see. The reporter's questions are gentle but angled, calibrated for impact. "How did you feel when you heard they'd made an arrest?" she asks. Her mother struggles for words. Relief, anger, nausea, gratitude, grief sharpened all over again. None of those fit cleanly into a soundbite. "I thought I would be happy," she manages finally. "After all these years, I thought I'd feel some kind of peace. But I just keep thinking, where was she? What did he do with her? Did she know we were looking for her? It's not peace. It's something else." Her father's jaw works, a muscle jumping. "They say solved on TV," he says, voice steady but edged. "They can say that if they want. Until someone tells me where my daughter is, it doesn't feel solved to me." In the sheriff's office, a conference room turns into command central for a case that is both brand new and older than some of the staff working it. Whiteboards carry timelines that stretch across entire walls. Photos are pinned in clusters. Danielle's face, the backpack, the car, the suspect's younger booking photos from the 90s, his more recent driver's license, his current mugshot. The distance between the two versions of his face is measured in wrinkles and gray hair, but the eyes are the same, deep-set, watchful, withholding. Prosecutors move quickly but methodically. They know the jury pool has been marinating in this story for 25 years. They also know that nostalgia and outrage are not evidence. They need more than a DNA match and a bad feeling, more than a family tree and an old assault charge. They need a narrative that holds together even under cross-examination, even when the defense starts pulling at every loose thread. So they go hunting for threads to tie off. They track down the old co-workers from the grocery store and the gas station across the street. People answer their calls in different cities and states, living lives that have unfolded fully in the time since Danielle's life stopped. Some remember everything in sharp detail. Others remember only a feeling, unease, a comment that sounded wrong but faded, a car that lingered too long in the lot. One former cashier says she's sure she saw the suspect in the store that month, maybe that week. He'd come in late, buy cigarettes, sometimes a beer, she recalls. He'd stand by the door for a second and just watch. It gave me the creeps. I told my manager once, but what were we supposed to do? Ban someone for standing weird? A mechanic from the old service station where the car was found remembers a dark pickup he thought belonged to a guy working odd jobs. "Had a dent in the side," he says. "Driver gave me a bad vibe. Could have been him. I don't know. It's been a long time." The uncertainty hangs there, a reminder that human memory is more fog than film, more impression than exact record. The assault victim from 1996, now older, with lines at the corners of her eyes she didn't have in that police report, sits down with prosecutors and tries to drag that night back up from where she buried it. "He followed me to my car," she says, hands clasped tight in her lap. "Pinned me against the door. He said things about how nobody would hear me. I got my knee up, caught him hard, managed to get away. I didn't want to relive it back then. I let the plea deal happen, but now... She glances at Danielle's photo on the table, her expression torn. If I'd pushed harder, maybe... This is not on you, the prosecutor says, firm. What he did then, what he did later, that's on him. We're here because of what he chose to do, not what you didn't. The defense team builds its own narrative because that is their job, because the system demands someone stand between a defendant and the full crushing weight of the state. They talk about degraded evidence, about the possibility of contamination in an evidence room that has seen floods, power outages, human error. About alternative suspects, the original investigation considered and never fully cleared. They talk about statistical probabilities in genetic genealogy, about how a second or third cousin match is not a direct line, but a web, and webs can tangle. They point out the obvious. There is no body, no direct witness to a killing, no confession. Just an absence and a pattern of behavior they insist is circumstantial, even if it's ugly. You cannot convict a man for being unpleasant, they say. You cannot convict him for being the kind of person you find it easy to imagine doing something terrible. You must convict him, if at all, on proof, beyond reasonable doubt. The phrase reasonable doubt threads itself through every news discussion, every bar conversation, every whispered argument in the grocery aisle. It becomes the counterweight to 25 years of fear and fury. People who have long believed in their bones that some nameless predator stole a girl off the road now have a name, a face, a person they can attach it to. But in the courtroom, belief and bone-deep certainty have to step aside for chain of custody forms and expert testimony. Keller spends long nights at his desk, reviewing every page of the file, every decision made by the Boys Club of 1997 investigators, and by the slimmer, sharper teams that followed. He's looking for cracks the defense might widen. A missing log entry, an improperly sealed bag, a missing signature on a transfer sheet. Every human touch on the evidence is a potential soft point. He finds human moments, an officer's rushed handwriting, a mislabeled photo that had to be corrected, a night when too many things were happening at once and someone forgot to tick a box. But nothing fatal. Nothing that gives the defense the clean kill shot they're clearly hunting for. One evening, when the sky outside has gone from pink to bruise purple, he drives out to the stretch of highway where it all began. The road is wider now, repaved. There's a new gas station, a fast food joint that didn't exist back then. But the land beyond the asphalt is the same. Scrub, dirt, low ridges, a horizon that looks like it's trying to swallow the sun. He stands at roughly the spot where the backpack was found and tries to see it as it was. Early morning light, deputies' boots tramping the shoulder, the flash of evidence markers against the dull sand. There is no traffic hum in his memory, just radio static and the sound of flies. He pictures a truck pulled over, a driver's door open, a girl being forced from one world to another in a handful of seconds. "We got you, you son of a..." he starts to say, then stops, because the wind doesn't answer and the desert doesn't care. The trial date is set, then pushed, then set again. Pandemic delays, scheduling conflicts, a blizzard in the state where the suspect is being held before transfer. Each postponement feels like another little crime to the Prices, who have already waited a quarter of a century. But eventually people begin to gather in a courtroom that smells of old wood and recycled air, under buzzing lights that flatten everyone into the same shade of pale. On the first day, the benches behind the prosecution table fill with familiar faces, grown older. Old classmates, teachers, neighbors. A few out-of-town reporters with notebooks open, pens poised. Danielle's parents sit in the front row. Her brother grown into a man with his own kids, his own life. But the same tightness around the mouth that he had as a teenager, answering detectives' questions with monosyllables. The defendant shuffles in, wearing a suit that doesn't quite fit and a guarded expression that never fully cracks. The jury watches him with a mix of curiosity and wariness, eyes flicking between him and the DA as opening statements begin. The prosecution sketches the story in broad, hard lines. A young woman leaving work, a highway, a car abandoned, an old smear of biological material that waited patiently in the dark until technology caught up, a family tree that pointed again and again toward the man sitting at the defense table. They talk about pattern and proximity, about the odds against random transfer on a driver's seat she never shared with him. The defense paints a different picture, a flawed investigation distorted by community pressure, evidence stored in conditions that might have compromised it, an attack decades ago that, while ugly, does not equal murder. They remind the jury that no one saw him with Danielle, that no one can say exactly where she met her fate, that the state is asking them to fill in gaps with horror stories and modern fear. Days blur into weeks. Experts march through the witness stand. DNA analysts explaining alleles and peaks in graphs translated into layman's terms. Genealogists mapping out family branches on screens. Crime scene techs who have to admit they were working with what they had in 1997, which was not what they have now. Under cross, the defense picks at everything. Is it possible this profile could have been the result of contamination? Is it possible someone else related to him could have left that sample? Is it possible that degraded material can be misread? The answer, from every honest expert, is always the same. Anything is possible in the strictest sense. But the probabilities stack up, point one way. Science doesn't deal in absolute metaphysical guarantees. It deals in numbers, and the numbers are pointing at the man in the suit. Through it all, the defendant mostly watches, eyes narrowed. Sometimes he leans in to whisper to his lawyer. Sometimes he stares straight ahead, face a mask. He never looks back at the family seated a few feet behind him. He never looks at Danielle's photo on the display board for more than a flicker. Outside, the story plays on a loop for a watching world. Decades-old mystery, small-town haunted, DNA breakthrough, justice at last. Inside, the mystery stubbornly refuses to shrink to fit the angles of a segment. On the stand, no one can say how she died. No one can say exactly where. No one can explain what happened to her body. Whole chapters of that night remain blacked out, words razored from the page. The jury goes out. The room they leave behind feels suddenly hollow, as if all the air has been sucked toward the door they disappeared through. Hours tick by. The Prices sit close, hands clasped, staring at a fixed point on the far wall, as if willing it to split open with an answer. Keller stands in the hallway, shoulder against the cool plaster, listening to the muffled sounds of a courthouse going about its usual business around the eye of this long, slow storm. When the jury files back in, faces closed, no one breathes. It's not like in the movies. No dramatic music swells. The hum of the AC is the only background. On the count of felony murder, guilty. On the count of kidnapping, guilty. On the count of aggravated assault, guilty. Each word lands like a stone dropped into deep water. There is no cheer, no shout. Danielle's mother covers her face with both hands. Her father's shoulders sag, a strange mixture of collapse and release. Her brother stares at the defendant, jaw clenched, as if trying to bore a hole straight through him with his eyes. The man in the suit doesn't flinch much. His lips press into a thin line. For a second, something like fury lights his gaze, directed not at the family, not at the jury, but at the system itself, at the invisible web of science and persistence that has reeled him in after all this time. Then the expression is gone, smoothed over, filed away for appeals that will soon begin. Reporters rush outside to feed live shots. Verdict in the Arizona cold case that gripped a town for decades. The word closure gets used a lot. The family can now begin to heal, one anchor intones, as if those faces of grief were clean tiles on a board game. But as the courthouse empties and the sun slides down toward that familiar desert horizon, the truth hangs in the air like heat. A jury has spoken. The law has carved its decision into the record. Yet the most basic questions remain suspended over that stretch of highway, over that grocery store parking lot, over every bedroom where a missing girl's poster still curls at the edges. Where did he take her? What did she see in those last minutes? And somewhere out there, under layers of dust and time and forgetting, what part of her story still lies buried, waiting for someone brave or foolish enough to keep digging, even after the word solved has already been printed in bold? If the story ended there, it would be neat, clean, a headline with a period at the end instead of a question mark. But real cases, the ones that dig their claws into people and refuse to let go, almost never end where the credits say they should. They keep going in quieter ways, under the skin of a town, in the late-night habits of strangers who never knew the victim, but feel like they did. In the weeks after the verdict, the case mutates from breaking news into something else, a reference point. Commentators on talk radio say the suspect's name as shorthand for monster who got away with it for years. Politicians mention the case when they talk about funding for cold case units, about the importance of preserving evidence, about the promises science can make to victims who've been left behind by time. Every time Danielle's name is spoken into a microphone, it reverberates in the ears of the people who actually knew her, like a bell struck one too many times. Her parents attend the sentencing hearing like people walking into a second storm while still soaked from the first. The judge reads out the years, stacked, consecutive, heavy enough that they might as well be saying, for the rest of your life. The defendant stares straight ahead, taking it in, his profile a hard line. When the judge asks if he has anything to say, he hesitates, the whole room holding its breath. He clears his throat. "I maintain my innocence," he says. No apology, no explanation, just the same denial, another layer of paint over a wall everyone now knows is rotting underneath. Later, in the parking lot, a reporter leans toward Keller, microphone extended. "Detective," she says, "you've worked this case for most of your career. With today's sentencing, do you consider the case fully closed?" The word hangs there, too simple for everything it's supposed to contain. Closed. As if you can shut a door on a ghost, and it will politely stay on the other side. Keller glances toward the far end of the lot, where the horizon burns orange behind the line of cars. "The investigation into who did this is closed," he says carefully. "A jury agreed, but there are still things we don't know. There are still answers we'd like to give the family. Where she is, what he did with her. Those questions don't disappear just because there's a conviction." The clip plays on the evening news, then gets clipped again, shared online with captions that sound definitive. Lead detective admits questions remain. Comment sections erupt. Some people are satisfied the right man is in prison. Others wonder out loud if someone else was involved, if the story they've been given is just one layer over a deeper truth. Online, the case lives a second, more chaotic life. The message board threads that once obsessed over grainy security footage and unidentified cars now pivot to courtroom sketches and transcripts. Users pick apart every line of expert testimony, every facial expression they can catch in the few seconds of footage allowed to air from inside the trial. One poster, who calls herself Desert Witness, claims she saw the suspect in town the week before the disappearance, standing near the payphones outside the grocery store, smoking, watching people go in and out. "I never came forward because I didn't think it mattered," she writes. "I thought he was just another creep. Now I can't stop replaying it." Another user, who goes by Occam's Razor, loves the neatness of the DNA story. "You have his genetic material in her car," they write over and over in response to skeptics. "In the driver's seat, not the door handle, not the trunk, not somewhere incidental. The driver's seat. That's not transfer, that's contact. There's no reasonable explanation that doesn't involve him being exactly where he shouldn't have been." But the internet never runs out of doubt. A small but loud cluster of commenters insists the genealogical evidence is too new, too untested, too slippery to hang a life sentence on. They talk about false matches, about amateur genealogists misreading trees, about people being railroaded by a public desperate for an ending. In diagrams and long posts filled with screenshots, they outline alternative timelines that pull in other names, other crimes, other possible villains. In the middle of this storm, there is a quieter space where the people who were there in 1997 try to go on with lives that have long since been shaped by that August night. Some of them find it easier now to drive that highway without their chest tightening. Others find it harder because now there is a face in their mind when they pass the place where the backpack was found. A face that looks overly ordinary, the kind you could sit next to in a waiting room and forget 5 minutes later. Morales, who once followed the case as a teenager, now carries it around as a series of images burned into her detective's brain. The evidence box on Keller's table, the genealogist's sprawling chart, the suspect's hands twitching when the guilty verdict landed. She starts taking on more cold cases, almost without deciding to. Files from the 80s and 90s, old photos of missing boys and women whose cars were found empty on lonely roads. Each one of them whispers a similar promise. Maybe, with the right push, with the right lab, with the right database search, they too can move from missing to known, from unknown assailant to a name. Sometimes she drives out to the Price house, sits at their kitchen table, drinks coffee that's more comfort than taste. They talk about the case in fits and starts. Her mother wants details, then doesn't. Her father wants to know everything and nothing all at once. Their son, now with kids just about the age he'd been when the posters went up, lurks near the doorway, listening, stepping in when the conversation threatens to sink his parents deeper than they can safely go. "Do you believe he did it alone?" he asks once, after his parents go to bed, voices drifting down the hall. "Or do you think there was someone else, some helper, someone who knows what he did with her?" Morales thinks about the tire tracks near where the backpack was found, blurred, overlapping, about the half-remembered reports of a second vehicle seen that week, of parties in the desert where girls said they felt watched. "We don't have evidence of another person," she says, choosing each word like it could cut. "If we did, we'd be pursuing it as hard as we pursued him. But absence of evidence doesn't automatically mean there was no one else. It just means we haven't found them." He nods slowly. "So there could still be someone out there, walking around, knowing exactly where she is." "There could," she says, because she is not in the business of comforting lies. "But there's also this. Secrets like that are heavy. People drop pieces. They brag. They drink too much, talk too loud. They tell the wrong person. The longer time goes on, the more chances there are for someone to slip. If that happens, we'll be listening." In a prison several states away, the man at the center of all this adjusts to his new reality. The walls are small but solid. The routines are strict. He is another number in a system made for warehousing people who have been deemed too dangerous to leave outside. Some of the inmates know what he's in for. Word travels. Some stay away. Others watch him with a kind of speculative curiosity. Men judge other men's crimes with their own twisted scales. Harm done to a stranger can be one thing. Harm done to a kid, to a girl who never made it home, is something else. He keeps mostly to himself, the way he did on the outside. He makes no dramatic proclamations in the yard, no tearful confessions to the chaplain. In the few brief calls he allows, he repeats the same lines. They got it wrong. The science is flawed. The cops wanted someone to pin it on. He never mentions the girl by name. But at night, when the noise in the block dies down and the fluorescent lights buzz like a swarm of distant insects, he lies awake and stares at the underside of the bunk above him. Somewhere beneath the layers of self-preservation and denial, he knows what the DNA, the charts, the testimonies all pointed to. The past has finally wrapped its hand around his ankle. What he doesn't know is whether the past is done with him yet. Because the questions have a way of multiplying, not shrinking, when you finally catch the person you've been chasing. Investigators in other jurisdictions start looking at their own unsolved cases, their own missing girls, their own night shift workers who never made it home. They compare timelines and maps, pull old reports. Did this man travel here? Did he have reason to be there? Could the same pattern of violence that ended one Arizona summer night have left echoes in other towns, other deserts, other stretches of two-lane blacktop? Some cases get a second look and are quietly set aside. Wrong dates, wrong details, wrong methods. Others make detectives lean forward in their chairs. A woman who vanished from a rest stop 2 states away in '95. Another who escaped an attempted abduction outside a bar in '98. and gave a description that harmonizes uncomfortably with his younger booking photo. Files that once sat alone on their shelves begin to look like they might belong to a series. Morales and Keller get calls. "We're not saying it's him," other detectives tell them. "We're just saying the shoe might fit." They share what they can: travel records, union logs, old addresses. It's a web that stretches out from that Arizona highway into other stories, other